we've come together for this Allies meeting, Mr. Marvin Beatty. He is well known for all of his work in development. I know him personally from his long extent on the executive committee for the Detroit branch NAACP and also chair of our golf outing, and just a longtime supporter. And so I'm going to ask if he would come and greet us this morning and share with us about the new Brush Park development.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. Good morning. And it is certainly good to be here, good to be anywhere on this May 12th of 2015. It's hard to imagine that we've already 5 months, 5.5 months almost into this new year. It is just remarkable, but what that does say is that we got to get busy, that time is not on our side. And that the more time we take to get things done, the more likely we won't get it done. So we got to get at it and stay at it. But this is a great opportunity to talk about what is really a very unique project in the city of Detroit. It's not downtown, something that we continue to hear about. But I would just encourage you to recognize that without a strong downtown, it's difficult to have a strong neighborhood. And everything has to start somewhere. And momentum is really the centrality for success. And if you don't have momentum, you are not likely to create the level of success that's necessary to move the ball up the field. So as we have undertaken this Brush Park development, and for those of you who are not quite aware of where Brush Park is, it is just east of Woodward, west of I-75, right in the just really not far from where the new stadium will ultimately be built. So we are a Brush Park development partners. Our major partner is Dan Gilbert, and we have a sizable piece of the development partnership with Mr. Gilbert. We, meaning a number of other African American developers, are part of our development plan. So what we have really is a 8.4 acre site, which is located in the old Brush Park community, which over the years has been a target for development over many, many years, that has failed in its efforts to develop itself in a way that is significant to the community and that would provide the kind of momentum that was necessary to move to the next phase. So Brush Park has kind of been in the middle. It is an area where there are a number of old mansions dating back to the late 1800s. Many of them have been refurbished, but many of them have been still stand and have not had anyone to pay the attention to those mansions that are necessary. So, as part of our project, as part of this 8.4 acre site, a $70 million project of mixed use, which would include 4 of those mansions will be completely refurbished and redone to some level of marketability. What I mean by that is they could very well be single family, or they could be rental properties or lease properties as well. So we have not decided exactly what all of those places would end up, but there are 4 very significant mansions that will be redeveloped as a result of this project, along with approximately 340 housing units, which would include rental, townhouses, condominiums, and for purchase condominiums as well. So it is a full mixed-use development that would allow for a considerable amount of retail, a considerable amount of green space that will allow for this whole community to begin to look like it was anticipated to look many, many years ago. going back to the many years that Brush Park was a viable, high-end community. This residential community will allow for affordable housing. There will be affordable housing including in this project as well. Approximately 20% of this development project will be affordable. The rest of the 80% will be market rate. Again, there will be different sizes for sale and for rent. So the project is really very versatile. It has a tremendous amount of real opportunity for those folks who have previously lived in that community and have been displaced for whatever reason, either from the old Brewster Projects area, but who have been displaced will now have a real opportunity to come back to a neighborhood that they have either grown up in or lived in for a considerable part of their life. And we also think that as a consequence of this, there are a number of other developments that are going on as well. I know you may recognize that the old Brewster Center is going to be revitalized as part of this whole Brush Park momentum. And then there's another piece of development that is also going to take place on a 1.5 acre site just adjacent to where we are. So what that says is that the momentum of downtown is beginning to trickle into neighborhood. And, you know, people talk about neighborhoods, and I live in the city of Detroit and have my entire life. But neighborhoods are a very critical part of, obviously, Detroit's survival, and whatever beautification opportunities that will be afforded this city will come through neighborhoods where people live. But as you look at this city, and all of you have, you know that this city is huge, huge by acreage, huge by square miles. And many, many areas have just been absolutely devastated over time, which also goes on to tell you that it is very, very difficult to develop something in the middle of what is really, in reality, nowhere, with some expectation that it has an opportunity to survive. It's very, very challenging. Development needs people. It needs activity. It needs all of the things that you would expect for it to survive. I don't think any of us, unless we were on a farm or out in the country, would build a house in the middle of nowhere, unless, again, you were in a place where you wanted to accumulate large pieces of land and live, you know, in that rural experience. But however, what we're faced with in the city of Detroit is this is not a rural community. This is an urban environment that has all of the needs for urban experience. Well, of course, that includes retail. That includes all of the things that are part of your daily experience that you now have to leave and go somewhere else to get. Well, I just contend that in order for neighborhoods to redevelop, just think about driving down 6 or 7 Mile Road every day and looking at the devastation of the retail space on those streets. Just think about that. And think about how would you feel about purchasing a house just adjacent to that negative driving experience. When you drive down those streets and you look at those retail spaces and you see nobody, you see them boarded up and nobody there, why would you be encouraged to move into a community that even in itself has a level of devastation? Well, the answer is it's not likely to happen. So what has to happen is that we have to redevelop these retail strips. We have to give opportunity to the entrepreneur who has a shop on 7 Mile, has a shop on 6 Mile, who has a vacant building next to him, to give them the same opportunity you'd give a housing neighbor for a vacant lot, to take that piece of property next door if they were interested, to expand their business, give them some money, provide them some opportunity to do some facade improvements, even if they can't open the business right away, but to do a beautification effort in front of those in their next door building, that will then begin to convince people that there is an opportunity for revitalization, an opportunity for the city to continue to go forward. That's part of what Brush Park will do. It will help to create that level of momentum. It will create a marketplace for retail. It will create a marketplace for restaurants and other activities that are important to revitalization of a community. It is an actualization of a lot of different things being put into one package. And if we don't recognize that, you know, you just get bombarded, Detroit, downtown, 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 downtown. You know, what about neighborhoods? Well, we have to create momentum. We have to create the kind of interest in the community of investors, of folks who want to move back to the city. And I think all of us recognize that we see a tremendous amount of white folks moving back into our community. Well, they've made a commitment to move back. At what point do black folks make a commitment to move back to this city? When do we stop poisoning the pond living in Birmingham and Bloomfield? And God bless them, I get it. But when are we going to make a contribution to move back into our own city and save ourselves? So with that, that's just my little commentary for all of those who want to continue to point the finger at everybody else, but not point the finger back at themselves. We have to repopulate this city ourselves. We have an obligation to see an opportunity as the white community has seized the opportunity. We have to see the same thing. It's our challenge. It's our community. We were, I mean, you know, we've walked away from this community, and I get it, you know, high taxes, crime, all of those things. But look, if white folks can make a decision to move back, why can't we? Why can't we? What's the difference? And it's home. And it's home. That's it. I mean, we have a commitment to make sure that 50% of our contractors are Detroit-based and minority-owned companies. We will live up to that commitment of 50%. So there's some real opportunity for a lot of folks to go to work. Of course, as always, you know, we're looking for quality companies that intend to do quality work for a fair and equitable return on their investment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Mr. Beatty, for joining us.